Have you ever wondered if the t-shirt you're wearing could actually shake an entire country's economy? Well, today, we're diving into what's happening in Bangladesh. There's a huge crisis brewing in their garment industry, and it's not just about factories shutting down. It's actually a massive geopolitical power play that could affect millions and millions of people.
For decades, Bangladesh has been the world's go-to workshop for the clothes we all wear. That Made in Bangladesh tag, it's everywhere. It's a cornerstone of the global economy. But right now, that powerful economic engine is starting to seize up. Factories are shutting their doors, and the fallout from this could be absolutely massive.
And this isn't just some abstract economic number. We are talking about 15 million jobs just hanging in the balance. And for the vast majority of these workers, who are women, these jobs have been a complete lifeline, a real path to financial independence and a better life. And now that path is starting to crumble.
So if you look at the headlines, you'll see stories about local protests and strikes. But what if that's not the whole picture? What if all the chaos you see on the streets of Dhaka is really just a symptom of a much, much larger and more strategic game that's being played out on the world stage?
Okay, so on the surface, the immediate reason for all this chaos seems to be a protest. The local textile mills in Bangladesh are furious, and their anger is aimed at one thing: imported yarn, specifically from their next-door neighbor, India.
And their demand to the government is, well, it's pretty blunt. They're saying, stop the duty-free import of Indian yarn, or we will shut the entire industry down. It's a serious ultimatum, and you can tell it comes from a place of real desperation.
The argument these mills are making is actually pretty simple. It all comes down to survival. They're claiming that a flood of cheaper, duty-free raw material from India is completely undercutting them in their own market. They just can't compete on price.
And they say they have proof. And that proof is just piling up in their warehouses. We're talking over $1 billion worth of unsold yarn and fabric, just sitting there, collecting dust, all because the garment factories are opting for that cheaper Indian alternative.
But here is where the story takes a huge turn. This whole internal fight over yarn, it's basically a smokescreen. The real earthquake, the event that triggered all of this, actually happened thousands of miles away, in the quiet halls of international trade negotiations.
That's right. India just signed a massive new free trade deal with the European Union, and this one single agreement has sent shockwaves through the entire global apparel supply chain, landing right on Bangladesh's doorstep.
Let's be really clear about the scale here. With just the stroke of a pen, India's trade deal has put this sector that makes up over 80% of Bangladesh's total exports in its crosshairs. It's a brilliant economic move for India, but for Bangladesh, the consequences could be absolutely devastating.
Now, to really get why this deal is such a game-changer, we need to quickly break down the difference between two key terms: textiles and apparel. They sound kind of similar, but in the world of global trade, they are two totally different things.
So think of textile as the raw ingredients, the thread, the yarn, the big rolls of unstitched fabric. Apparel, on the other hand, that's the finished product. It's the ready-to-wear shirts, jeans, and dresses that you actually go out and buy in a store. And this difference in specialization created this incredibly powerful, almost symbiotic relationship. See, India became a giant in textiles, the raw materials, ranking 4th in the world. And then Bangladesh took those materials and became the world's second biggest exporter of finished apparel.
And the system worked like a charm for years. High-quality Indian cotton and yarn would get sent to Bangladesh duty-free. That means no import taxes, which keeps the costs way down. Then, factories in Bangladesh would stitch it all into garments for the world's biggest brands. Bangladesh literally built its modern economy on being this crucial middle step.
But this new India-EU trade deal, it just takes that entire playbook and completely rewrites it. Suddenly, India isn't just the supplier anymore. Now it's the direct competition. This deal is basically designed to cut out the middleman.
To really feel the danger here, you have to get this one simple fact. Bangladesh's economy is basically a one-trick pony. A staggering 84% of all its export earnings come from one thing: selling apparel. When you're that dependent on a single industry, any threat to it becomes an existential one. So, who's their biggest customer? The European Union. The EU buys almost half of all the apparel that Bangladesh ships out. This makes the European market absolutely critical for their survival, but it's also their single greatest vulnerability. And here it is. This is the knockout punch. The new deal gives India the exact same advantage that Bangladesh has relied on for decades: zero tariff access to sell finished apparel directly to the EU.
A tariff is just a tax on imports, right? So zero tariff means India's goods can get into Europe without those extra costs. So the question for all the big global brands becomes pretty simple. Why bother going through Bangladesh when India can now do the whole thing tax-free?
Just think about it. Take a look at the labels in your own closet. H&M, Zara, Calvin Klein, Puma, these global giants built their empires on the efficiency of factories in Bangladesh. This trade deal doesn't just disrupt some faraway country, it completely redrawed the manufacturing map for nearly every major fashion brand on the planet.
Okay, so let's tie this all together. What is truly on the line for Bangladesh as it faces this monumental shift? The consequences aren't just about money or economics. They run much deeper, right into the social fabric of the country.
I mean, the potential fallout is just catastrophic. We're looking at a direct hit to 11% of the country's entire GDP, a major drain on the foreign currency they need to buy essential goods, and, maybe most devastating of all, the loss of millions of jobs for a workforce that is overwhelmingly female.
And this isn't just some modern economic quirk. There's deep, deep history here. For centuries, as this quote points out, the dream for European consumers was to wear premium Indian cotton. India is now perfectly positioned to bring that direct relationship back to life, combining its historical prestige with 21st century tariff-free logistics.
So it leaves us with a pretty critical question, doesn't it? This whole situation is such a powerful reminder that these free trade deals aren't just dry economic agreements. They are strategic moves in a global game of chess. And as those powerful pieces move across the board, it's almost always the workers on the factory floor who end up paying the highest price.